Good evening, Guardians. Welcome back to Tower Casuals, the Destiny podcast. I am your host, Josh. Of course, if you're hearing me tonight, that can only possibly mean one thing, and that is that Corey has the night off. Corey is off for some family things tonight. His daughter's birthday is coming up this weekend, so they're having a nice family weekend. But fear not, I'm here. We're gonna do a pretty short episode tonight. There's not a lot that I think we really need to talk about this week. The Schwab is, thank God, it's kind of a nothing burger. That I think that's always the concerning thing when one of us takes the week off. It's like we decide like a week or two out, like, hey, I'm gonna miss this week. I've got something to go on, or we have to miss at the last minute. It's always like, well, shit. I really hope nothing huge happens, both in game or in terms of maybe changes that Bungie is doing. We like to know about some of these things maybe in advance that Bungie's going to announce, because then we can go and we can pull in Johnny, or we can pull in Nerd or Joe or somebody like that to come in and talk about it. But this week not a whole lot. So we're just gonna get right to the nitty gritty of it. Like I said, the Schwab, nothing really there. There's some Bungie Foundation stuff that's going on. If you're going to GCX, there's an opportunity to win one of the Gambit medallions, which they've given out in the past. They haven't done this in several years, and you can also gamble that for a Crucible pin. Both of these are long-standing things that Bungie has done at events such as PAX, Gamescom, and E3 in the past. But to see them officially going to GCX, Cosmo and Dylan are two of the people going down there. It's pretty cool. It's pretty nice to see the embracing of GCX after all this time from Bungie. I know they sent people in the past, but it started out as like a Destiny thing. It's really like grown into something for a lot of gamers in the southern United States especially, but a lot of Destiny creators still go there and have a very, very big deal. They are hosting a 3v3 tournament on the floor of GCX. Three of the teams that will be there, team from the Bungie Foundation: Benny, Panda, and Amigarar. The GCX creator team, as they're calling it, Walla, Black Dahlia, and Omelette, and then Team GCX, which is Dr. Lupo, Gathalion, and Leopard. So that's pretty tight. It is a 2-day event. You can have your chance to challenge them. So good luck. Definitely good luck. Bungie Bounty is back. For those of you who don't know what Bungie Bounty is, it is if you are in PvP or Gambit trying to do it, then this can go one of two ways. Either you help the creator win the match if you're on their team, or you're part of the team that defeats them. And then Vanguard Ops is the other activity, and if you match with them, you'll get the emblem. The Bungie Bounty emblems are always pretty special. It's been a while since they so heavily promoted this, but you look through the list of PvP and PvE creators that they're going to have over the next couple weeks, and you'll probably see some pretty familiar names from all around the world from the Destiny community. So if you're interested in that, check that out. I don't think I've ever been fortunate enough to match up on one of these, but if you look at the charts here, it'll tell you what platform they're streaming on and what platform they are playing on as well. Basically, it's all Steam. I'm gonna be real. It's all Steam. There's a couple of PlayStation in here, but that's it. It is almost entirely Steam, which I think does reflect a lot of the player base at this point. We kind of talked about this over the last few months, but it does feel like a pretty seismic shift has happened in terms of who is playing Destiny, and I think it goes beyond Destiny. If you listen to the last Xbox Casuals that Corey and I did this past Monday, we really talked about like console gaming and how Xbox in particular is kind of abandoning some of their console strategy in favor of going in on PC and cloud. And I think that's where we're going to be at, minus Nintendo, probably in like within the next 10 years, we're going to see an even bigger shift to PC. The PC shift kind of snuck up on everybody. Yeah, if I can get away from Destiny for just a second, I promise I'll loop it back to it. It kind of snuck up on everyone. And I think the big push to PC really came, at least in the circles that I run in, it seemed to come up during COVID-19, which is really funny because that's when it was so hard to get video cards. It was so hard, people were trying like, oh my god, I can get the 3080 when it comes out, or I can get a 3090, and it was so hard to get those. They were so unattainable. But people were buying pre-builts. A lot of the folks that I play with in Destiny, or that I play games with in general, really made the shift to PC, and to the point where I'm one of the few holdouts, I feel, amongst my friends who game a lot. I am the sole holdout of not having like any way to play PC games, like not even a Steam Deck at this point. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. I understand the shift to PC, especially for a game like Destiny. I think a lot of folks, it stemmed from, I know a minimum of 3 people who switched to PC purely because it was so hard to get a Series X or a PS5 that opening year. But on top of that, like, there really haven't been the exclusives that make you go, damn, I gotta get one of these. Really, it's just like, oh, it's been the way to play these games more efficiently if they were cross-gen. But I mean, you look at the PS5 for the first couple of years, and Miles Morales, God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, and I think Gran Turismo, and I also believe Sackboy's Big Adventure, all came to PS4 as well as PS5. The only like real exclusives you had were the Demon Souls remake, Returnal, and both of which, by the way, kind of like niche titles. Like we all love FromSoft, but Demon Souls is still a pretty niche game. Even if it sold pretty decently, and that's the kind of game you want to take the risk on at launch. And then you had a Ratchet and Clank game that was exclusive. There were like not a whole lot of motivation to upgrade there. I would argue that Spider-Man 2 last fall was probably like the first game on either platform that was exclusive to the new generation that you were like, I have to buy a console for this game. And Xbox, like, God bless them, I like a lot of the games Xbox has put out, but they haven't really had that big exclusive that forced you to buy a new console. Like, Starfield was kind of envisioned to be that game, and, however you feel about it, it is what it is. It really didn't have the staying power on consoles. And so it's been interesting to see Xbox kind of reorient their business decisions towards PC. I mean, PC Game Pass is the most affordable way. We have a question about this later on. That's part of why I'm going over some of this now. But to loop it back around, like, PC is becoming a pretty core point of attack for Sony. And I think Sony has to be thrilled seeing the Circana charts for player engagement. These are newer charts that we just started getting over the last few months since Matt Piscatella went to them over MPD. And I don't know what happened there. I don't know if MPD just changed names or if like he left the firm altogether. Like, very few people in the world do this kind of tracking, and Matt's the best at it. He's been publishing these charts about games that see the most engagement on PlayStation, PC, and Xbox. And consistently since we saw these charts come out, Destiny 2 has been in the top 10 on PC. It has not been in the top 10 on Xbox and PlayStation. It really only launched back into that because of Into the Light. I don't even know if it got in top 10 on because of Into the Light. I think on PlayStation it did, but I don't think it did on Xbox. It took the final shape coming out for it to hit top 10 on all 3, and it went in the top 5 on all 3. For I think May and June it was in those. I don't know if we have the June charts just yet. But in May it definitely climbed back into there. And then, you look at Helldivers 2, is no longer in the top 10 on PlayStation. It's finally dropped. It's down. I think he said it's like around 20 or something now, 20 to 25, which still good, but for an exclusive multiplayer game, not like the best. It's still a top 5 most engaged with game on PC. So I think, you look at, the amount of Destiny creators. Now, I told you I was going to bring this back around to Destiny. You look at the amount of Destiny creators and players that went to PC. I know the shift was kind of gradual when they first brought it to PC because you had to do it through Battle.net. I think it was when it hit Steam. That's when a lot of people kind of turned their heads and went, okay. Yeah, they're like, oh, okay, well, what if we do this? And I do think that seeing the performance that you got on Steam, especially versus on Xbox or on PlayStation, was a pretty big motivating factor, I would say. Like it's been such a weird rollout. Like on the Windows Store and Steam specifically, it's been really, really weird. Um, I do not like the way that it's rolled out over the years. It came to Battle.net first, which made it the first non-Blizzard game. And then it finally came to Steam with Shadowkeep, which was right before COVID. And I saw some shifting then. It really took, for me, I noticed the biggest shift when Beyond Light came out. That's when the new consoles came out. And a lot of people, I think, just said, fuck it, if I have a halfway decent PC, even a starter one, don't have a 3080 chip in it, or even like a 2080, you can get away with a $1,000 pre-built at that point and still be able to run Destiny 2 perfectly fine. Like, you could still do that today. And that was where I saw the shift. Was with Beyond Light. People who didn't want to go out and have to buy, I gotta buy 2 brand new consoles. Gotta try and find 2 of the brand new consoles, because 60 frames legitimately changed the game. It legitimately changed the entire game. When 60 frames was brought to consoles and the field of view slider was brought to consoles, that's what changed it, I think. And it was this sense of, if you're not playing it this way, you're going to be left behind. But on top of that, the performance and things like that, like, you can customize your experience, like, in a lot of times you're well exceeding 60 frames if you're playing on PC versus Xbox or PlayStation or wherever you were. A long story short, a lot of Destiny's player base really started to make the shift, and I think, like, because a lot of Destiny's player base also likes to play either RPGs or likes to play shooters, and some of those popular shooters on the face of the earth are PC only. Counter-Strike is PC only. I know, totally different game than Destiny, but Counter-Strike, Valorant, and then you look at other Riot games. You look at like League of Legends. League is on there. Baldur's Gate 3 would end up being not exclusive, but that's definitely the platform. If you're going to go play Baldur's Gate, that's the platform you're playing it on. It's still top 10 most engaged with game on PC. And as a result, now you're seeing these games that are launching on both console and PC day and date, especially if they're launching on Steam. I'll be really clear. Like, when I say launch on PC, I mean launching on Steam. I don't mean the Epic. The Epic Store is just a catastrophe. And don't even start with me on the Windows Store. But if you're using the Windows Store for anything other than Game Pass, God bless you. Another thing that I think kind of helped with the transitional period to PC was, I think we all remember that one wonderful year where Destiny was a part of Game Pass, where not only was Destiny 2 was free to play, obviously, at that point, but you got Forsaken, you got Shadowkeep, and you got Beyond Light as a part of it also. And that was wonderful. That was all wonderful. It was I think it was a 1-year agreement to keep all that on there. And that was great. I know people who use that opportunity to change to PC because, oh, I can get it through the Windows Store for like the first year. I don't have to rebuy it all right away. I can wait and buy it all on a super sale leading into Witch Queen or something. And that ended up being a great idea. I know that PlayStation has given away um, Beyond Light. I know they've given away Witch Queen and Lightfall. Like they have given away all of those as part of their PS Plus program, and not just like as part of your sub, like as something that you get and you get to keep as long as you keep your PlayStation Plus subscription. Um, so they've done a lot of initiatives across all these platforms to try and get people engaged and get you in, get you free ownership of things. Stadia did something similar when Shadowkeep launched. But I say all that to say that there's been a pretty clear shift in what we decide to play and where we decide to play. So, long story short, I know I've really drug this on for like 10, 15 minutes, but that's why you're going to see a lot of Steam engagement going forward, and you see some PlayStation in there. They're just, and realistically, you're just not going to be Xbox. And it's not that people aren't playing on Xbox. It's just that eventually, like that base is going to start dying. That base is going to start dying off. And that's fine. Like a lot of Xbox players have made the decision to go to PC at this point. I will probably be joining them here within the next year. There's a longer conversation on Xbox Casuals about that, but yeah, it's I'm starting to get to the point where I'm ready to leave console gaming behind. I'm kind of willing to just like wait on PlayStation games, honestly, at this point, and wait for them to come to PC because that timeline's going to have to be cut down at some point. But like right now, I'm barely using it as it is. I'm barely using my PlayStation as it is right now. I use it for the one, maybe two exclusives a year I want to play on it. Like I think the one game I've played in the last year and a half, I played 3 games in the last year and a half on it that I couldn't play anywhere else, and that's Spider-Man 2, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Helldivers 2. And I've talked about Helldivers. Wasn't my jam. It was fine. Like it was totally fine. I had a lot of fun for about 2 weeks with that game. And I'm not saying it's bad at all. It just after that I was like, I don't really like the gameplay loop, and that's fine. Spider-Man 2, it's great, but it was a game that was designed to be able to be 100%ed within like 22 hours. And there hasn't been any DLC announcement yet. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, yeah. It's funny. Like but 2 Final Fantasy games in the last year have completely consumed my time, and that's 16 and 7 Rebirth. But like I get those couple of experiences I can't play anywhere else, or that I would have to wait forever to play elsewhere. And it's just I'm starting to get to the point where I want to wait. Like we joke all the time that like Microsoft was kind of ahead of the ball on several things, and the embracing of like PC gaming going from a niche to being like a super popular thing was something they were like 2 years ahead of the curve on. I don't think people remember how much of a meltdown there was when they announced that Forza Horizon 4 was going to come to PC, and they were like, "Wait, what?" Like outside of like a couple of random games, like Microsoft really hadn't embraced PC. They freaked out about that. In fact, the freakouts go back further. If you go back and look at Quantum Break being announced, it's coming to PC on the same day. People lost their proverbial shit. That was like 8 years ago. And by like 2020, we weren't even thinking about it. We're just like, oh yeah, well, we're just assuming everything's going to come there. And they did a cool thing. First party games, you buy them, it's play anywhere. I'd love to see Sony adopt a policy like that. But I think we're getting closer and closer of Sony, seeing the numbers on the Circana charts, seeing that Destiny and Helldivers are constantly in that top 10, knowing they have a huge audience on PC. Ghost of Tsushima was the number 1 selling game in May across all platforms purely because it came to Steam. Like only because it came to Steam. So there's a lot of demand for these games, and I do think that Sony sooner rather than later is going to have to embrace the PC side of things. We'll have to see how good Concord does coming out of beta when it launches in early September. I think that's the next test. If Concord does good, then it's like, oh, well, you're going to do good regardless of what game you put out there. They're going to have to do it with a single-player game at some point just to see if it's just a multiplayer thing or not. Like, do it with a current single-player game and see what the splits are. I think you'd be shocked. It's becoming pretty clear that if you release a game that's on PC and console at the same time, it might not outsell both consoles put together, but it's going to go neck and neck with PS5 at this point. which is really impressive. I think the outlier is when you throw the Switch in there, because Switch is the most known home platform. That's where things kind of get a little weird. But I digress. This is a really weird long soliloquy I've gone on, lamenting the death of console gaming. But yeah, it's going to be a long, steady death. And this all came out of a conversation about Bungie bounties. So if you're interested in Bungie bounties, you're interested in the time schedules and whatnot, they are all posted with Pacific time and then whatever time zone the streamer lives in as well. So have at it. Have fun. They are doing a build of the week contest on socials. I'm interested in what this looks like. Photonization is going to be the emblem that they give away. I don't know if that's the same as the Art of the Week emblem or not. But I do believe it's similar. We want build crafting experts to share their favorite builds, whether you're DPS focused, designed for solo survivability, helpful for healing teammates, or one-trick ponies that are fun even if they're not meta. We want to see them all share a breakdown of why you like this particular build. Of course, all the required info so others can replicate it. Text, screen caps, and links to apps or websites are totally fine. You can even send in videos if you'd like. Just make sure to use the hashtag build of the week so we can find it. If we select your submission, you'll get the very cool, very limited photonization emblem. Best of luck. I suspect we'll see this probably in 2 weeks. I don't think we'll see this next week, but in 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks probably feels right. I think they want it out of the way before GCX, but like 1 week is probably a little too much, especially during the summer months. There's some cool Art of the Week submissions. It's really slow if I'm talking Art of the Week. And the handmade sword here is fucking dope. Yeah, BansheeBot Pete created the Ill Omen sword. This thing looks fucking dope. This is absolutely incredible. This is one of the coolest things that I have seen in a long time out of this community. I really can't believe that this only has 100 likes on it. This is nutty. I think this is so cool. I always like when people make the. I like whenever people make the weapons. I love the Saint and Osiris artwork as well. I think that's very cool. And then the the prismatic hunter. Also, just like Jesus, man. These people are so much more talented than me. Starting on July 23rd, all Master Challenges in Salvation's Edge will be active for 1 week until July 30th at maintenance time. Because there were issues with the tracking of the Master Challenges for the Ignited Light Triumph. This is one of the rougher bugs that we have come by, and we are unable to retroactively credit players with previous completions. And because these are only available one at a time, you basically have to wait for the rotation to come back around, which is a huge bummer. So I do like that. I think that's really cool. I don't think I know anybody personally who was impacted by this, because I know maybe 3 people who have attempted master Salvation's Edge so far. Some of us are still trying to master normal Salvation's Edge, and I've only gotten a couple clears in, but there's that. That is also probably just a really good opportunity if you can get a group together to go in and try and get all 5 challenges done in 1 week. That would be the week to do it, so you're not waiting on rotation. I think that's it. I think that's it for the 12. Oh, I will shout out. It's here as the movie of the week. And the reason I'm shouting this out is this was the world's first solo witness kill. And this was done before the new mods came out. So this was done last week by Bog on My Dog. It is a really cool video to watch. I thought this was really cool. That is one of the more impressive things that I've seen in this game as a solo witness kill. Of course, Still Hunt and Celestial Nighthawk make this all possible. So definitely go check that out. It's very, very cool. In terms of what is actually kicking this week in Destiny, so we had a new season start this week, and I'm not really going to talk too much about the story because we're still kind of unraveling the story for this week. It really feels, next week is when we're gonna get the last battleground next week. But some preliminary thoughts on these two battlegrounds. I like that they begin. I like that the second one begins in the exact room where you fought the boss for number one. I like that 1, 2, and 3 are going to tell a story all the way through. I think that's cool. Um, I like the enemy density in these battlegrounds as opposed to previous battlegrounds. I still think it's frantic, but these on GM are going to be a blast. I can't wait for these to enter the rotation, and it's going to be another year before they do. Who knows how I'll feel about all this by then. For right now, because I've intentionally only done these a couple of times each, because I get burned out on battlegrounds super easily. To me, it is the equivalent of doing strikes. I get really burned out on the Vanguard playlist super quickly because I've done these strikes for years now. Um, I'm waiting until the third one is in there before I go for any associated triumphs that I need, like doing the expert battleground. I don't know what that noise is outside. I'm afraid to ask. And I don't particularly like that things aren't retroactive. Like challenges usually aren't retroactive. I'm kind of waiting until I have to go in there. But I am I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty excited for this. I think it's gonna be cool. I think it's a nice little concept they tried at these battlegrounds. The loot in the playlist continues to be rewarding. I think telegraphing that the Pistons are always going to be in the same two locations when you run through these. I have done each of these probably 4 or 5 times, and the Pistons have been in the exact same location both times. Both Pistons have been in the exact same location every single time that I've run these. That is the quickest way to fill up the radial area incubator that you're holding to get loot at the end. You can probably get through the playlist version of these in like 10 to 12 minutes if you're not fucking around. You can go fairly quickly. I think each one has like a room that you get held up in, but you just kind of fly through it otherwise. And that's really nice. I just to put it bluntly, that's really nice. Because let me tell you something. Being able to run through there, dunk all that, get showered in loot, it is quicker than doing breach executable. I do think that expert breach executable is the better loot drop. If you're not doing that with a group though, that can be an arduous experience. Because people don't want to go hit the Pistons, or they don't care to, or they don't want to, and that's kind of what is dependent on how much loot you're going to get at the end, honestly. But also like you want to fly through the encounters because you want the platinum score, and it's a fucking hassle. It's a fucking hassle at the end of the day. But I do like the idea of getting in there, getting 3 chests, and being able to dunk my radial area also. Despite all this, I have every craftable weapon. I have the first 6 craftable weapons. You know what I don't fucking have is any red borders for the 2 new weapons, despite me having run so many playlist activities on Tuesday and Wednesday. So yeah, I need them to be a little bit more generous with those red borders this time around, instead of just giving me a bunch of shit I already have. I'm not even getting drops of these weapons. I think the fact that you can't focus you don't have the focusing upgrade for the 2 new weapons right off the bat is just batshit. I think that's crazy. I've yet to get a perfect paradox to drop. I don't know if I need to go do an Enigma protocol and get that to drop or not. But I haven't seen one of those either. And it's a shame because I love the 2 new weapons. I'm not complaining too heavily about, especially Aberrant Action, because let me tell you something. That rocket pistol may have graduated to being my favorite in the game. I don't know if it's better than the Call, but we now have 4 rocket pistols in the game. We have Indebted Kindness, we have the Call, and we have a Baron Action. And you also have Buried Bloodline, which is the Void Exotic um, rocket sidearm from Warden's Law. Warden's Keep, whatever it's fucking called. Um, Warden's Law. Warden's Law is a fuck it. That's a hand cannon. It's been a long day, but you have those, and I think they have to be really careful with the rocket sidearms because they are so powerful right now. Like they are one of, if not the best secondaries to have on you in PvE content, especially. Um, this new one is so dumb. The very first one that I got had heal clip incandescent on it. I don't feel the need to go for another roll right now. This thing is dumb. This thing is absolutely dumb, and I love it. It is such a silly gun. I also have I have a velocity masterwork on it. High velocity rounds and hard launch are both on it as well. This is just such a fucking dumb sidearm. I love it. It is very good. It is very fun. I enjoy it a lot. Um, God, I just don't know what else to say. If you have yet to find a if you have yet to find a rocket sidearm you like, I think this is going to be the one that you love. Panda Paxi says this on for PVE through Dim. I think this might be the best rocket assisted sidearm in the game. While it doesn't have this yet, I do think this will be the go-to energy weapon. Incandescent and heal clip on one of the best weapon types will certainly bring better oomph to your loadouts. Zali's Bane, be gone. Recommended masterwork, reload speed. And I do have to say, after using this, I would definitely want reload speed on this as well. This thing is so dumb. I have been a fan of the rocket sidearm since I got Indebted Kindness, my very first run through Warden's Keep. I'm going to call it Warden's Keep. I don't even know if that's the name. But since I did Warden's Keep, I've gotten that has been one of my go-to special weapons. Like obviously, I got my beloved roll on it. I think my second time through is when I got my favorite roll on it, Volt Shot Impulse, with high velocity and quick launch. I've really enjoyed that this whole time. I mean, I've got like 5,000 enemies defeated with it, so I've really enjoyed it. And then obviously, I don't think I have to tell anybody what a good weapon, what a ridiculously good weapon the Call is. The Call is another very silly, very good gun. Even if I'm running stuff that's not super meta on it, I still really like it. God, the dealer's choice perk just makes it so good. But yeah, rocket sidearms, man. These things are going to get nerfed pretty soon. I would really love to get some specific artifact perks, like really lean into sidearms before we're going to run these into the ground. So let me get one more season of these. I would like to see a stasis or a legendary void one of these before we go nerfing them too bad. I do feel like a legendary void one where you're just suppressing everybody constantly is going to be a problem. But I'd really like to see one of these with like headstone on it. I think there's a lot of fun builds that could be happening with that. So this is kind of what I imagine the Cryesthesia. Like if we could go back and have a redo on Cryesthesia, I feel like it would be a rocket sidearm. Not that Cryesthesia is bad. It was when it first came out, and then it became really good once people understood how to use it. By people, I mean me. But I think the rocket sidearms have been just one of the funnest things added to this game in such a long time. I like the healing autos. I like Ergosum. I love the heavy trace rifle. I love Microsm. But man, rocket sidearms. It's been a really fun like 7 or 8 months with these things. And I mean, you got to remember, for so long, the only two we had, I think this is the only reason they haven't been running to the ground. The only two we had for like 7 months were Indebted Kindness and Buried Bloodline. You had to go do the dungeon in order to get those, and then it's also kind of luck of the draw at that point, right? I don't think we need to remind anybody about the luck of the draw on fucking dungeon weapons when I've been sitting here screaming for, I sat here and did, how many fucking runs of that second encounter in Duality? I must have tortured Joe and Andre doing, I think I did 50 or 60 rotations of it. Ultimately, I had that encounter memorized. I don't think I have touched Duality since I got a decent Storm Chaser out of it. I didn't even get a God rolled Storm Chaser. I got a decent one, and then like the next week is when Taipan just took us all for a ride, so I was really upset. But it's kind of a valuable lesson, I think, in like grinding things out too much, or like, oh, you can only get something from like one encounter. I will say, God, Indebted Kindness is just it's so good. It's so good. Like, it's good, but it's funny that like we were like, oh my God, this gun's so good, and then the Call and Aberrant Action are like just, in my opinion, head and shoulders above, and that might be because of my specific role on it, but they are like head and shoulders above. It's like, Joe, Jesus Christ. We're basically imagine if everything from Sunshot was a special weapon, and hit a little bit harder and healed you when you did that. So it's been fun running around with Heal Clip Incandescent on it already. Really, really loving it. The other thing that I'm liking is I'm liking this Corasion. Corasion is the new 2-burst pulse. Now, I haven't had a chance to use this too extensively yet. I don't have a role that I'm in love with on this. In fact, the only role I think I have on this is my Swashbuckler Pugilist on mine. I like how hard this thing hits, though. I'm a really, really big fan of it. I'm excited because I think that this gun has some serious, but I think this gun has some very serious potential. I don't know where I would stack it up in terms of the other 2 heavy pulses. I do think that by and large, Nullify is probably still better. That is, of course, the Salvation's Edge raid one, the solar one you can get from there. The only other heavy 2-burst I believe that we have is the Strand Trials one. So this is the one that I think is accessible to most people, obviously. For a lot of folks, this is going to be their first encounter using a 2-burst, and I just don't know if this is like the best weapon to use on, or if this was like the best one to put out there. But I want to pull up the perk pools for this really quickly, because I want to go through some of the things that you can get on this. So in columns 3 and 4, you can get Air Trigger, Perfect Float, Pugilist, Eddy Current, Enlightened Action, Perpetual Motion, High Impact. I am not in love with any of those. I'm going to be completely honest. I think Perpetual Motion is probably the one you want to go for. I think Eddy Current is fine. Temporarily increases reload speed and handling after sprinting or while amplified, and is improved. The effective's improved while you're amplified. I think Eddy Current is fine. I like it a little bit better on heavy weapons, or like I think I would really like it on a fusion. I don't know that I really love it on a pulse, but I'm definitely willing to try it. I like Enlightened Action. It's not my first choice, but I will say Perpetual Motion, probably the one to go for here. Maybe High Impact Reserves. That second column, you can get High Ground, Eye of the Storm, Frenzy, Swashbuckler, Volt Shot, One for All, and Focused Fury. I think that, Volt Shot and Volt Shot Frenzy are probably the 2 that you're going for. Maybe you're going for Eye of the Storm. But the perk pools on this compared to the other 2-bursts, I don't have the I don't have the in fact, I know for a fact that I don't have an Aisha's Care. I know for a fact I don't have one of those. But like I look at Aisha's Care and what you can get, and you can get Keep Away, Zen Moment, Slice, Gut Shot Straight, Encore, To the Pain, Under Pressure, and then you can get Hatchling, Kill Clip, collective action, desperado, golden tricorn, head seeker, and moving target. I, along with like, oh, you can get ricochet on it. You can get ricochet on it also, and it is really hard for me to say, yeah, I think that Corazian is going to be better than Aisha's Care even. And I know a lot of people who don't like Aisha's Care already, even though you can get Slice Hatchling, Slice Kill Clip, you can get To the Pain on it, you can get Keep Away, you can get Zen Moment. I personally really like Zen Moment on mine. I like Zen Moment and I like Under Pressure on them. Yeah, I like Head Seeker on a PvP role for that. Um, and then Nullify. I love the. I absolutely love Nullify. I think the perk pool for Nullify is the best of any of these. Nullify, you can roll Firefly, Under Over, Demolitionist, Subsistence, fourth times, Heal Clip, Rapid Hit, and then in the other column you can get Desperate Measures, Vorpal, Adrenaline Junkie, Multi Kill, Attrition Orbs, Chaos Reshaped, and Incandescent. You really can't go wrong with most of those rolls. Um, on my personal one that I'm using, I have Chaos Reshaped and Firefly on mine. And that thing is just it is an absolute monster. I fucking love this thing. I love that the flavor text is absolutely not. I love it. Eigenolify is far and away the best of those, at least on paper. I should offer that as the caveat. I am interested in seeing how this is going to work out. I do want to play with the new Pulse quite a bit before I issue an exact ruling. I'll talk about it a little bit more next week. But I haven't found a role that I really like on it yet. I haven't found a role I really like on it. And I certainly can't craft it yet. So I'm gonna need to play around with it a bit. I'm gonna see if I can get some more roles this weekend. Talk about it a little bit more next week, and obviously I'm gonna try and get a perfect paradox. Because I don't know how I feel about Perfect Paradox coming back either. We've gone over the roles on this before. Also, and of course, it has the Cast No Shadows Origin trait, which is kind of a Titan's best friend. But Threat Detector, Slide Shot, Field Prep, Dual Loader, Pugilist, Threat Remover, and then Trench Barrel, Swashbuckler, Opening Shot, Vorpal, 1-2 Punch, Barrel Constrictor. This will be fun for a lot of 1-2 punch builds and a lot of melee builds. I think that's where Perfect Paradox is really going to shine, and it should, because this is a Titan's best friend essentially, right? This is Saint 14's gun. It should shine in melee builds. I think it's cool. It's not for me. A lot of the roles I'm seeing that people want are Field Prep, 1-2 Punch, or Field Prep, Trench Barrel. I've seen some Dual Loader, 1-2 Punches. But yeah, Panda Paxi says the same thing here. As we talked about for in terms of PvE roles, and then PvP roles. I mean, you want Threat Detector Opening Shot or Slide Shot Opening. So, but it's also like it's not going to be amazing in the Crucible because it's a rapid fire frame. That is something worth keeping in mind. It is a 140. So keep that in mind. If you're getting this, it's primarily going to be for PvE shenanigans, and you're not really going to be using it too much effective PvE or PvP. Excuse me, not PvE, PvP. So as long as you keep that in mind, I think you'll still have a good time with it. I think it still has the potential to be a good gun. And I look forward to getting one just to have it. You know, it's just something I'll stash away. We've got a whole year for these to become better, right? Like that's the other thing, is we've got a whole year of buffs and nerfs to grind the shit out of these weapons from this first episode. So I'm not too worried about it. Of course, remember, this is not a craftable gun. You have to earn it through drops or through focusing. And if you go to the Enigma protocol, I always want to call breach executable the Vex network activity. If you go to Enigma protocol, you do have the opportunity for those weapons to drop with double perks on them. So keep that in mind. Beyond that, there's not a lot of other stuff to really talk about from this week. It's kind of been a low key week in Destiny, which is really weird to say with Act Two launching. There's some wild stuff you could do with that artifact, but a lot of that was shown off in the live stream. If we hadn't had the live stream to talk about last week, I kind of feel like we would have had things reversed. We would have been talking about stuff from that. But it's kind of nice to have a bit of a low key week. We've needed one. We've kind of needed to slow up because even when we had seasonal stuff starting, it feels like it has been just such a sprint since the final shape came out. Last week was really the first week I felt like I was breathing. Oh, it's the second week of Iron Banner. Okay, I don't like Tribute. I did not enjoy Tribute the few matches that I played, so I said, fuck it, I'm done. And I just kind of didn't play Destiny the rest of the week. I played very sparingly. I got on, did some pinnacles, but that was about it. And this week I did my story stuff on Tuesday, and there was enough story stuff there for sure. You do the story stuff, you do the failsafe research project for the week, and I felt just like kind of cool chilling. I did a Grandmaster. Yeah, I ended up doing a Grandmaster the other night with Joe and Johnny, and then last night I ended up running 2 dungeons. I did a Spire run, and I keep calling it something stupid. Fucking Watcher's Tower. It's Warlord's Ruin. God bless America. I ended up doing those last night, and I was like, yeah, okay, I'm kind of cool with like just chilling. I want to get some Salvation's Edge runs in for sure. I really want to get Nullify craftable. I'm like one pattern away from doing that, and the sword are each one pattern away from being crafted, and I have not had any other weapon drop from it yet. So I am pretty excited to do some more Salvation's Edge runs, hopefully at some point in the next week or two. Before we get to Lore Corner, we do have a couple of questions tonight. I solicited some questions earlier in the day. I solicited a request for some questions, I should say. And of course, the usual suspects rose to the challenge. Tiger Jesus 64 writes in, would you like to see Dreg's Promise reimagined as a rocket sidearm? So Dreg's Promise. Dreg's Promise is a D1 gun. It is, I want to say it's the one weapon we haven't gotten from the Prison of Elders. It's the one exotic they gave us during that we haven't gotten. I would be okay with this coming over. It was an exotic sidearm that dropped for us. Man, I don't know what you would do. So the cool thing was it had tracking projectiles on it. So it basically had beacon rounds already built into it without them calling it beacon rounds. It would be cool. If it comes back, it probably needs to be an exotic again, but it can't be the exact same exotic because it would be outclassed instantly, I think. I would be okay with this. I'd be okay with it. They would need to change obviously the range would need to be changed a bit. And it had shock rounds. I think it had Grave Robber and Snapshot also on it. So there's some interesting stuff you could use with this. I'd be okay with it. It was also the cool thing about this is I think it was a burst sidearm also. I don't remember a ton about Dreg's Promise. I'm going to be completely honest. It's been so long since I played with that gun in D1. I probably haven't thought about Dreg's Promise in like 6 or 7 years at this point. I didn't think about it much when I did have it. But I do think that would be a cool thing to bring back in a Fallen themed season. Hint, hint, next season. It could be really cool if we're going to keep doing rocket sidearms. I do feel like we're going to get another one next season. I just don't know if it's going to be Stasis or Void that'll be a regular one. You could go and do another exotic one, sure. This would be a pretty prime opportunity. It would allow you to introduce a new frame of the rocket assisted sidearm. Which, lets you shoot. Maybe it has like a burst fire mode or something. That could be cool, but it would have to be kind of similar to like a pulse rifle. Like, oh, well, one bullet on its own doesn't really do it, but when you hit like all three or all four of your bullets, that's when you're doing the damage. It would have to be something similar to that. I would like seeing Drugs Promise come back. I think if it may, I'm always a proponent of if something makes sense in the scope of the story that's trying to be told and in the scope of the release, then I'm fine with that. Lately, I've really been wondering what the reprised raid is going to be. I've been so set on it being Wrath of the Machine because I think Wrath is the obvious choice for me, but knowing that we're going into a Fallen season, knowing that Spider is going to be associated with it somehow, I have this really like sinking pit feeling in my stomach, wondering if it's going to be something like Scourge of the Past instead. And I want to be super clear here. I love Scourge of the Past. My rankings may not have reflected it, but I do really like Scourge of the Past. I wonder what you would do as the exotic there, because you can't just be like, oh, here's Anarchy, because like, hey, we've been able to buy Anarchy for like 3 or 4 years now. Like, you're gonna have to come up with something new. Drag's Promise could be that one. Drag's Promise could be the new gun that you put in there. New gun. I'm saying that in quotation marks. Reimagined Drag's Promise could be the one that goes in there, rather than having to come up with an entirely brand new one for Wrath. And I do think there are some difficulties with Wrath coming forward, obviously. But yeah, no, Tiger Jesus. I think Drag's Promise would make a lot of sense. I would like to see it, but you would have to completely reimagine that gun, and that's totally fine. I want to be super clear when we reimagine things and we keep the spirit of the original alive and we reimagine them to work in the Destiny 2 sandbox. That's when I get excited, and I think we're rapidly running out of guns to do that with in Destiny 1. From Destiny 1 content, we are very quickly running out of exotic weapons that we can bring forward that we have not already brought forward that makes sense. So I would like to see what could possibly be done here. There's not a lot. There's really not a lot of exotics that we can bring forward from D1 anymore, and that's maybe one of like 3 or 4 that you could actually bring forward that would make sense. When you look at the heavies, we have 3 different swords. Well, those swords are like all legendaries now, basically. Same with we had like 3 variations. We had like Thunderlord, we had a Void one, and we had a Solar one. Okay. I joke all the time about wanting my Young Wolf's Howl sword back, but again, unless there's a story-related reason, like the death of Saladin, I don't think I'm going to see it again. Red Death just came back, but I'm looking at the special weapons that haven't come back, and it's like Black Spindle technically is back. It's Drag's Promise, Hereafter, Icebreaker, Invective, Patience and Time, Plan C, Pocket Infinity, Trespasser is back, excuse me, and Zen Meteor. I don't know if any of those are coming forward. Drag's Promise makes the most sense out of those. God, I remember liking Hereafter, but I don't even, Jesus. And then, God, in terms of primaries, they had so many primary exotics. This is ridiculous. Ones that have not come forward include Boolean Gemini, Fabian Strategy, Fate of All Fools, No Land Beyond. I know that's one that's been requested by everybody at this point. Steel Medulla has not come forward. But that's a fucking, what you call it? That's a fucking raid weapon. Never mind. Ignore me. That's a fucking raid weapon. I'm having to remind myself of ones that are raid weapons. I forgot that they did adept versions of those. Psylocke, First Curse, Universal Remote, and Zalo Supercell. I don't think there's too much opportunity for more D1 weapons to come forward. I think that would be one of the very few that would actually make sense to bring forward, though. So great question. Great question. Jiggly Panda writes in, do you guys have any thoughts or opinions on College Football 25? I've been seeing reports it's one of EA's most successful games before launch in recent years. We'll love to know if you think EA could do this with another series like Titanfall. I'm gonna be honest. So first of all, I couldn't give less of a shit about College Football 25. You're asking the wrong guys. Neither Corey nor I play sports games. It's not that I don't like them. It's just, well, I mean, I don't like them. I would rather watch game. I would rather watch sports than play sports games personally. Um, but College Football 25 is such a big hit because of the nostalgia factor and the fact that Madden has been stale for years and years. I don't think that doing this with another game would get you the same result. I'll put it this way: Titanfall was pushed so hard for the first game, but the first game was ultimately doomed to fail because it was a it was an Xbox and PC exclusive in 2014, early 2014, mind you. That was kind of a recipe for disaster, you know. Even if it had come to PS4, it would have been hard. It was a multiplayer only game, and I think now that would be embraced a lot better. But people weren't playing on PC. There was no crossplay. And then Titanfall 2 came out, and EA sent it out to die. EA put it out between Battlefield and Call of Duty. They put it out the week between those two. And then they dropped Battlefront 2 a couple weeks later. It was always destined to fail, unfortunately. And I think that's when they dropped Battlefield 2. Battlefront 2. I'm trying to remember. Anyways, they all came out around the same time, and EA basically sent it out to die. I don't think Titanfall is going to get resurrected that way. I've given up hope on Titanfall 3, personally, and I don't know that I want it at this point. I spent my entire 20s asking for another Titanfall, and their answer to me was LOL, here's Apex Legends. Um, Despite Titanfall 2 having one of the best FPS campaigns of all time. I also just think like it played so differently that people weren't ready at the time. I think now if you dropped it, it would be fine, but it's so hard to come out and be like, here's Titanfall 3. When the first game is delisted, you can't play the first game. Not to mention there wasn't a whole lot of story to it anyways. And Titanfall 2 servers are dead or full of hackers if you play on PC. So I think the only other series they could do something like this with that would get the same kind of response as college football would be NBA Street. I actually think NBA Street would be the perfect game to do this with, because it was something that like it appealed to that NBA Live crowd, but it didn't take itself seriously. It was a big ass goofy game, and I love NBA Street. To be clear, the first two NBA Streets are two of my favorite games from my childhood. I think anything EA Sports Big made there for a while was really good. I did not play FIFA Street. I did play NFL Street and really liked it. Of course, y'all have heard me talk about SSX Tricky before. I love SSX Tricky. I love SSX 3. I even liked the fourth one, which nobody acknowledges. I liked On Tour. I liked the reboot they attempted. Sports games are in a really strange place where I feel like you have to do something different or they're just not going to hit because everyone's so entrenched in Madden, what used to be FIFA and 2K now, and they've just become a shell of what they used to be. You know, they still sell really good because there's people who buy those every year, but they're the people who buy those and like Call of Duty every year then want to turn around and say, "Oh, when the games get bad," like, well, they didn't get bad. You're playing regurgitated slop is what you're playing, you know? I don't think EA can do this with another game. EA really got gifted something here. When EA took their time and they took a couple of years to make this. I think that's the biggest lesson here is they took a few years to make it and they didn't make it an annualized franchise. If EA and 2K would take like even a year off in between games, like maybe they could work out a deal with 2K or something where like, hey, you guys put out 2K in 2026, we're going to put Madden in 27. You know, maybe we'll drop FIFA the same year as 2K or something, you know. But you know, maybe you work out something like that. I think it's also the fact that when it comes to the NFL specifically, I know that only EA has the rights to it. With the NBA, I believe that EA still has some rights to it, and I think 2K has even gotten some NFL rights, but they just have done nothing with it for like the last 3 or 4 years. I was just reading a story about that today, actually. I don't think you're going to get it. It takes a big multiplayer game and like something like the thing with Titanfall is it has to break through all the other shooters that are out there. for your attention, and even then, you'll be lucky if people are still playing it like 2 months later. That's the reality of shooters right now, and multiplayer games. Whereas something like college football appeals to such a broader demographic than, when we think of gamers, we don't think of the people who play the sports games all the time. That is something that appeals to the masses outside of it's this is like a cultural moment for so many people who don't play video games. I was seeing so many people on Twitter who don't play video games being like, all right, what console do I need to in order to play this on? How do I buy it? What do you mean it doesn't work on my PS4 or on my Xbox One? Funny enough, this may be the game that gets people to upgrade their consoles. Now just Call of Duty would do it. I was also listening to Xbox Casuals, and it hit me thinking, is the price increase for Game Pass and PS Plus the reason games keep going up in price? No, not even close. Y'all think that games are going up in price. In reality, they've kind of always been in the $60 range. Games actually got cheaper for a while there in the PS2 era, which is what a lot of us remember. We remember the PS2 and PS3 era, where games were, a lot of times $40 or $50 because there was that middle ground with a lot of studios. There was like the AA environment, you could say, or the high-end AA development. Like Midway Games was one of the studios that I would probably classify as that, right? Majesco was one. Like these companies are now defunct. And there's been so much consolidation in the industry over the last 15 years that's kind of fallen out. And so now people are freaking out because oh my God, games are getting more expensive. Games are also more expensive to make than ever before. We talked about this with Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2 cost $350 million to make. Horizon Forbidden West cost $280. These games are costing more than blockbuster movies are. $350 million, that's on par with what they paid to make Avengers Endgame 5 years ago. That's insane. No game should ever cost that much money. That is unnecessary. That is completely unnecessary. Something needs to happen to get timelines shorter. I don't mind paying $60. $60 for a premium experience I'm fine with. I know that game prices are starting to go up to $70. I do think it's really telling that not everyone is going up to $70. It's been nice that there hasn't been an industry-wide shift to that like a lot of us feared there would be. I think the reason why we feel like games are getting more expensive is, one, there's so much DLC nowadays. You're not getting a finished product a lot of times at launch. You're almost better off waiting a year and getting the complete edition or the Game of the Year edition or whatever, because there's season passes involved. Everybody wants to make a living, always online game, a game that constantly gets new content. They basically figure they can get you to buy the equivalent of 2 games now when you think about it. And that is a trend that started towards the end of the 360 PS3 generation, I think, and really continued into the Xbox One and PS4. I think games like Assassin's Creed are pretty strongly to blame for that. Here's your $60 game, but hey, we're going to release a season pass that's $30 and has $20 or $30 and has more story content in it. And then they started including unnecessary multiplayer content in there so they could justify inflating the price even more, to the point where season passes for games are costing as much as the game itself. And, that's the problem we saw with Borderlands. We've seen that with Borderlands. Borderlands released 2 or 3 season passes. They were getting you to buy 2 or 3 games worth of content, and $50-$60 a piece if you bought it right at launch. And that's who they're trying to appeal to. People who have to have it right away. The super fans that have to have it right away is where they're going to make their money. And I only want to point the games point the finger just at that. You can even look at, I remember when Fallout 4 came out, the season pass was listed at $30, and then they increased the price to $50 before it came out, because Fallout 4 sold so insanely good in its first couple of months. And Far Harbor was supposed to be the cap-off experience to this season pass, and they were like, well, shit, we want to make more content. They came up with ideas for 2 more pretty good-sized expansions, including Nuka World, and said, if we're going to do this, we're going to have to charge what we are for Far Harbor by itself, which was $25-$30. They says we got to increase the price of the season pass, but they basically said if you bought it before Far Harbor came out, you could still get it for just $30. That is one of the only times I think it might be the only time I've ever seen the price of a season pass go up after it's already been released to the public because hey, we're releasing so much content. But I was fine. I was kind of fine with that as opposed to hey, we're going to release season pass 2 and charge you, another 30-40 bucks for it, which they almost certainly would have under the old Bethesda board. Um, it's the price increase for Game Pass and PS Plus is moot. That is more about them making their bottom line and how much their monthly active users are paying. That is all about being able to show those numbers and that continual revenue to shareholders more than anything else. That's ultimately all it is. So that's really all you're getting out of it. And Mega Pop Tart writes in with our final question. Well, two final questions. National Ice Cream Day is Sunday, so I was wondering what y'all's favorite ice cream flavor is. Oh man, I'm admittedly not a huge ice cream guy. I do like Bluebell. Bluebell, I do like the cookie two step, which is cookie dough and cookies and cream put together. I do really like that. I'm more of a shake or a malt guy, honestly. I do like a good ice cream sandwich. I really like a good Toll House cookie sandwich. I do like those. But ultimately not a huge ice cream guy. I like frozen yogurt. Nothing beats a 105-degree day outside and going and picking up some frozen yogurt at Brahms. Nothing beats that to me. If you're from the South, you know Brahms. I don't know what a national comparison to that would be. Unfortunately, I don't like these froyo shops. I'll put it that way. But I do like going and getting some soft serve at Brahms, like $1.50 for a froyo cone. That's pretty enjoyable to me. And then second question, you guys ever revisit Destiny 1? I'm currently doing a first playthrough of it, and I was wondering what element and story you would want to see carried over to D2 the most. I'm gonna be honest, man. I kind of talked about this a little bit earlier. I've tried going back to D1. I'll be really clear. I tried going back to D1. I want to say it was the day servers were down for Lightfall maintenance. I tried going back to D1. And holy shit, it was pretty rough. I couldn't find anyone to matchmake into a strike with. I had to go with solo in a strike, which really sucked. And I got my ass whooped right away, by the way. I think just about everything I want from D1 has come over. I've talked about this before, but outside of Wrath of the Machine, there's really nothing I care about coming over. We're getting the Dreadnought back later this year, which gives me hope that maybe we get Sunless Cell or whatever the other one was. Shield Brothers. Maybe we get one of those strikes back. I'd be really excited if we got one of those back. But the content I always wanted was the raids, and I never dreamed we would get them, and then we started getting one a year. And I really, really, really would like Wrath of the Machine. Wrath of the Machine and the Dreadnought have always been my answer to this question. There's a couple strikes I like out of there, but I mean, it's so glaring when you go do Fallen Saber, when you do Disgraced, which is really Omnigul. And I don't know why they couldn't just leave her as Omnigul. It's so stupid. And Devil's Lair. It's so clear how much better they've gotten at making strikes in the last 10 years that I don't think I really want anything from D1. Again, I'd be fine with anything like post Taken King. In terms of a strike, I'd be okay with, and there were really only 3 strikes after that, let's be honest. Fogoth wouldn't feel like a challenge. Archon Priest wouldn't feel like a challenge at this point. What's the other one on the moon? There was Malak. I actually would be okay with Malak. I think that boss fight would be really interesting with today's mechanics. But I also think that was something that came in with the Taken King, so that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to bring the stories forward in some way, which I'm still pretty adamant will happen when they finally decide to kill the D1 servers, which I don't want it to come now, but I do think it needs to come eventually. I'm not going to sit here and shit talk D1. D1 is a great time, but it's so hard to go back to. It's so hard to go back after the 105 field of view. It's so hard to go back after 60 frames. it's hard to go back after how the subclasses have changed so drastically. They don't even play close to the same as they did in D1, and that's for the best. I think everybody who is nostalgically beholden to D1 was peak, D1 was peak, just they were probably at a really happy time in their life, man. I'll be honest, like I have a lot of really great memories around D1, but I'm not itching to go back anytime soon at all, and that's okay. I don't think that we should force ourselves to rush back to it. So that's where I fall down on the D1 debate. I saw a really silly take this week, and I kind of want to save this for next week. Um, I'm kind of debating if I want to get into it right now or not. Yeah, I don't know if I want to get into this right now. Um, I'll save it for next week, but I saw a take on Destiny 3 and I didn't like it. I was really bothered by it actually. I'll put it this way, it was a very well-known streamer that most of you have probably followed at some point. I'll just go ahead and say it. I mean, it was Glad offered a take that basically said, see, like episodes are just renamed seasons. This is bullshit. We need to go to D3. Like that was essentially what it was. But he was like, if we go to Destiny 3, we need to get rid of all. We just need a fresh start of everything. And I'll tell you right now, man, if they ditch everything for D3, I won't be playing. There is nothing in the world that would get me to play D3 at that point. I don't care how good the story is. I'd be fucking done. Like fuck y'all. I would be so done. I would be done. I would be so mad. Um, I'm pretty frustrated. So I'm trying to find. Oh, here it is. So he posted this yesterday. I'll say what others want. Destiny's new episodes are just renamed seasons. It's way too similar, cadence and model. It's a marketing tactic to rename things to spark excitement in an exhausted game. Destiny needs a complete restart. New everything, nothing carried over. If that happens, I'm done. I'm just straight up. I would be completely done playing this game. Corey and I'll talk a little bit more about it next week because I really think there's a good discussion to be had here. Like more of the stuff about episodes because literally all of us think the same thing about episodes. But there were some really bad takes I saw going around about episodes this week, and I was like one content creator flat out was like, "Oh, I'm just burned out. I'm just hitting skip on all the cutscenes and on all the dialogue," and then said he had no idea what was going on. I was like, "Jesus fucking Christ, what are we even doing here, man? Like what the fuck are we doing?" There is, I just if you guys could have heard the disappointed sigh that came out, and like people were snitch tagging Bife and Mylan in it, which was really fucking funny to me. And their suggestion was like, dude, take a fucking break. You're clearly burned out, you're clearly jaded. Please stop playing because there is story here. You're just not paying attention. Um, and then Glad had another hot take today, and I do think this is actually a hot take. Reprised raids are not it. It's all for nostalgia. World's first races should never have been a thing for reprised raids in the first place. I will agree with that second part. I will absolutely agree with that second part. I mean, yeah, it is for nostalgia. Like, that's the whole fucking point. The point is to get people who used to play your game excited again, and to give people who never got to try the content to be able to play it, because D1's not super playable these days. I'm going to be honest. And it's probably going to be shut down in like the next 2 to 3 years. I think sometime after Marathon comes out and after Frontiers is out, they're probably going to breach that. They're probably going to broach that topic of, hey, we're gonna shut it down. You know, maybe it'll still continue. Maybe they'll come up with a suggestion for it to be played like locally or something, but it won't be servers anymore. You know, and that's just it's gonna be that way. And I don't know. I think it's really silly. I do think that double clear shit is really aggravating, and that's why like when we were clearly struggling in Crota, I was like, oh, I'm not even gonna bother with this. I'm not even gonna fucking bother with it. You can't get two clears. Like I'm not even I'm not even gonna bother with this. I do think I think there's some good discussion going on in the replies to the things that he said, but I do think at a certain point you have to understand like manpower and resources. Like getting two original raids a year just isn't going to happen. Anyways, we're gonna save a lot of this conversation for next week. This is just like kind of food for thought for everybody to think about. Get any questions you have about D1 raids or do we need to abandon D2? Get those takes going. I mean, we have to have this discussion like 4 times a year, anyways. It's coming up on that time. It's that time of the summer. People are clearly bored and are just being silly and ridiculous. Let's move on to let's do Lore Corner real quick. We're going to read Hazardous Propulsion tonight, which is the Titan rocket chest piece that came out. So this can't be right. They went inside the Traveler. A message she had intercepted moments prior had to be read 3 times before it finally made it through her processes, and she could make sense of the information. She's been so disconnected. Her cooling fans whir in a sigh. She hasn't seen the captain since they stopped by to deliver dawning cookies last year. They were still carefully stacked, untouched, a sugary careen in the maintenance bay. They get to do all the cool stuff. The fans hum louder in a sigh, though she is careful not to expend too much of her reserved energy. Sometimes a few stray messages found their way into her inbox, and she perused them when she remembered to check, but this one took the cake. All that fuss about the big mysterious ball in the sky, and now there they were, running around inside of it like some sort of playground. She wished she could see it too. I wouldn't take up too much space. All my processes are highly efficient. She considers, God, the situation for a moment. Maybe there's a way for her to join them. I can be valuable, she mutters. A machine buzzes in a nearby room. The 3D printer that had been dormant for years springs to life. With a surge of energy, she flips on her politeness filter, an uncomfortable feeling, as she pulls up old blueprints from her archives. What do Guardians care about the most? The Traveler? Cookies? The last sit? Something catches her attention as it sweeps by. No, wait. She zooms in, enhances. Rockets! An excited buzz makes the ship's lights flicker as she processes a million disastrously fun ideas all at once. The arms of the printer move wildly. Rocket boots, rocket arms, rocket helmet? She pauses, fingers scratching at a pretend shin as she contemplates. Though a rocket helmet does seem hazardous to the captain's health, the chance of head injuries is frequent and likely. Failsafe spins through the records of her rocket-like blueprints while the printer's hands work overtime to keep up. Something gets bedazzled with old solar panel shards and is quickly discarded. Got it. Rocket armor! Surely this captain won't hurt themselves with this. It's a perfect solution. Just the right amount of danger and effectiveness. Surely the captain will appreciate this and request her presence on their mission inside the Traveler. The machine continues to print a variety of prototypes as she hums a tune she learned from Cade 6. She thinks about him sometimes. Maybe she would have made something with rockets for him, too. I think it's very telling that between this and the dialogue you get at the beginning of the season, that Failsafe is very offended that we basically don't come to visit her except to drop off cookies and to tell her when a major character has died. We basically haven't filled her in on anything since Cade's death, as we come to find out. I thought that was a very funny way of explaining that away to like not assume that everyone in the universe knows what's happening. I think this is a fun little like look into Failsafe's psyche, but it's also the last line makes me really optimistic that we're going to see some rocket enhancements for the other classes too, which I think could be fun. I would love to see like little tracking rockets shoot out when you like deploy a rift, maybe. It's funny because I think hunters already have armor that fits this with bombardiers, but I think you could still do something fun there. There are plenty of fun things you can do. I would actually really like to say, I would like it to be like the most ridiculous looking thing that you have to wear. You cannot possibly build any sort of to where you can't build any sort of fashion with it. I think there could be some really fun stuff going on there. So, yeah, just a fun little note. I think it's kind of important, that we talk about Failsafe a little bit, considering this is the most we've done with Failsafe literally since the Red War campaign. There are people who are playing this right now going, who is failsafe? Because we haven't needed to do anything with her literally since then. I think the last time we maybe had to talk to her for story related stuff was Kaido's arrival. That legitimately may be the last time that we had to go there for something story related. I'm not even joking. I cannot think of another time that we've gone to visit her since then. And that was Chosen. That was 2021, spring 2021. It's been at least 3 years since we went and visited her. So yeah, I feel pretty bad about that. So all right, but I think that's going to do it for us tonight here at Tower Casuals. I want to thank everybody for listening to this episode. Definitely a little bit shorter without my wingman here, but I think we still had a good discussion, still had a good time. As always, you can find Corey on Twitter, Instagram, wherever he may do his social media at these days. At I am Corey in HD, and you can find me still on Twitter at Josh_Finn 2 N's, where I am bemoaning how bad the Mavs are at Summer League and the ending of my beloved My Hero Academia. But until next time, stay cool, stay hydrated, stay safe, and we will see you Starside.